Doing over $900,000 in my first year using only Google Ads was a big achievement for me. My name is Shri Kanase, founder of Your Marketing, but originally, I used to run an e-commerce brand that was a fashion e-commerce brand solely on Facebook ads. And after one Facebook ad account suspension, I quickly came to realize that building a brand or building just an e-commerce store in general with Facebook ads alone was not the way I wanted to go, because I'm sure a lot of you can kind of relate. I used to always have months where at the end of the month, I would open up my bank account to see almost all of my profits gone into paying Mark Zuckerberg, or gone into paying my employees, or gone into the cost of the goods. And every single month, this was kind of a repeated thing that would just constantly happen. Now, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of profits that I earned from Facebook ads as well. Facebook ads was one of the reasons why I even got success with e-commerce at the age of 18. But slowly and steadily, Facebook ads became a thing of the past for me, because I was able to achieve a good amount of results and a good amount in profits, that too from Google ads alone. And after I achieved this number, which was basically the year of 2019 to 2020, when I achieved this amount in sales just from Google ads, I said farewell to Facebook ads and fully dived into Google ads alone. And to this day, I only mostly about 99% use Google ads for my e-commerce brands as well as my clients' e-commerce brands. But this video is all about my journey from doing $0 to $900,000 in sales with Google ads alone, what I learned from this journey, the strategy I used not only for my e-commerce brand itself, but also the Google ads strategy I used, some small wins I focused on during the beginning, which led to this amount in sales at a 5.6x ROAS, and how I was able to kind of take that initial success and scale it to this level. So if you're thinking about using Google ads, or if you're already using Google ads, you're in the scaling phase, this video will definitely help you out. But here on my screen, as you can see, is the Shopify store, which I have opened, my main e-commerce brand. And I'm just gonna refresh it for all of you that think that these are fake results. I did not really achieve these results. So as you can see right now, it is fully getting loaded, and this sales amount is still the same, $902,000 in sales. As you can see, by the way, this conversion rate percentage here is fully wrong, simply because I was using external checkout applications, one of them including Intercart, which basically has its own checkout process. So the Shopify conversion rate fully gets messed up, which is one unfortunate thing. That's why it says 0.09%, but trust me, I had a much higher conversion rate. And if we go onto my Google Ads dashboard right over here, I'm just gonna refresh this as well, so you guys do know that this is full 100% real. But during that time period, which is basically the end of 2019 to the end of 2020, December 31st, 2020, I did about 5.61x ROAS. So $164,000 in ad spend during that time period for about $917,000 in sales. Of course, the number that you see on Shopify is not fully accurate, because that counts all of the returns and refunds, etc. But in total sales, this was close to $1 million in sales during my first year just with Google ads alone. Now, of course, to achieve results like these, it was not just all about Google ads. And I always mention this in basically every single YouTube video I make. It's about what kind of strategy you have, what kind of backend that you have, what kind of email marketing that you have. Because with Google ads, you have to understand is your success with Google ads is an accumulation of all of these things combined. If you don't have the right product page, if your products aren't right, if your pricing isn't right, etc., it's directly gonna impact your performance with Google ads. And this is one of the most common things I see, and one of the most common reasons why most e-commerce brands come to me as of today to work with me under my agency, yourmarketing.com. If you're doing about $30,000 in sales or more, you want to take your e-commerce brand to the next level, go ahead and go onto my website at yourmarketing.com, book a free call with me to see if we can work together and if I can help you take your brand to the next level. But majority of these e-commerce brands that come to me, or even me initially when I was at the beginning of my journey, used to think that it was just about launching that right campaign, having that right bidding strategy, having the right keywords, etc. But as I started to progress through my journey, I realized that it was not just about Google shopping ads or Google search ads or my bidding strategy. It was all of these things combined. And with my store specifically, I have a store on my screen open right over here. Obviously, it's not the same store that I run right now, because I still run e-commerce brand to this day, but it looked very, very similar to this in the initial stages, had a lot of different collections, had a very unique layout, and interesting part of all, it was actually a general dropshipping store. Now, nowadays in 2022, if you asked me if I had started a general dropshipping store in the beginning, I would have probably said no, because with the e-commerce brands I get to work with today, I can see that there's a lot more benefit to actually running an actual brand within a niche, because a niche just lets you be more in control of your store. You're not just relying on one winning product after the other, and you're really creating something that's going to last you long term. So this might look like a niche store to you, but it does look like sort of like a general jewelry accessory store. It was very similar to what I did initially. I was a general dropshipping store, had a bunch of different collections, and my main focus with my strategy for my store was just to have a store with a bunch of different products. Now keep in mind, I started this dropshipping store towards the late portion of 2019, so October, November, December. Obviously it was almost holiday season, Q4, so I relied mostly on toys and all other products which would be better off given as gifts. But if we go back to my Google Ads dashboard, you can see that during this time period, actually I did not make too much in sales. In fact, in December of 2019, the ROAS was at an all-time low of 2.10. So not really amazing ROAS. Just because it was December and Q4 doesn't mean I made a lot of money. In fact, I was losing money running ads during this time period. It was a very unfortunate time, but again, I had to get momentum going. I had to get those small early wins. Now, initially, here's exactly what I was trying. If we go ahead and change this time period from 2020 to just 2019 right over here and look at what I was doing from basically when I started this Google Ads account of November 5th all the way to December 31st and change this time period to all, we can see exactly what kind of campaigns I was running. So I had some general testing campaigns running right here. In fact, that's all of what I really had running, the same strategies that I teach today. But if you look at the ROAS, it was at an all-time low. I would never get a ROAS this low if I were to restart this brand right now in 2022 and onwards, because here's exactly why. I was listening to all of these other so-called Shopify gurus, Google Ads gurus, and by the way, during that time period when I started, I didn't really have too many resources or too many YouTubers to follow, so I was kind of on my own just trying out different things. But the reason why these ROASs were so low was, number one, I had very bad products. I thought these products were good, but in reality, now that I think about it, these products were just everyday dropshipping products you get on AliExpress. These products were recommended by just a lot of the resources out there. And also, number two, the campaign strategy. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video, it's not all just about campaigns, but campaigns have a big influence on your overall success with Google Ads. These campaigns were running on manual CPC, and the main reason why I came to hate manual CPC, why I just stopped recommending manual CPC in 2021 and even 2022, is because of these initial results I got with manual CPC. I tried doing the manual CPC route. I thought it was a good idea just to bid based on what I thought would be a good bid per product, and as you can see, the results were just horrible. I was losing money during a time period when I just needed to make money because I was low on budgets. I had spent all of my last earnings on my last store, which came to a crumbling stop with Facebook ads. So this general dropshipping store was running on manual CPC bids, and I was just bidding all over the place. If we go inside and look at the actual product groups, we can see what kind of bids I had running during that time period. And if you just rank by the cost, we can see right over here, some were bidding at around 46 cents, while others were bidding at around 29 cents, some at 25 cents, and so forth. Kind of all over the place, mainly because I had no single idea as to what I was even doing. I was just randomly guessing bids because I thought these were the right bids, and because I was following these so-called YouTube gurus, which were recommending manual CPC. So during this time period, I kind of realized that that's not the way to go. But fortunately, I was advertising during the time period when that big lockdown was just starting to happen, when that big health issue was just starting to come across. And I'm not going to mention it because of the YouTube ads algorithm. But if we look at January 1st, 2020 to February 29, 2020, I had kind of moved away from those testing campaigns and I had moved into a different strategy altogether. And this was the maximize clicks bidding strategy, specifically the one high bid campaign and one low bid campaign. And during this time period, you can see what started to happen to the ROAS. It immediately started to increase to levels I had never heard of before or never experienced before during my time period running ads. And one thing I had started to do more and more coming out of that December 2019 time period was focusing on the right kind of products. Now, in Q4 of 2019, as I told you, I was mostly focusing on the Q4 related items, meaning seasonal items. So these products were bound to die come end of Q4 because these were gift related items which could be given mostly as gifts. So come January of 2020, I started focusing more on the evergreen products, but also on products which were kind of coming in demand during that special time period because there was a health crisis going on. A lot of people were starting to spend more time indoors. A lot of people were starting to use certain products which they needed to use more often during this health crisis, and because of that, my store really started to take off during this time period. I mean, if you start looking at more towards the end of February of 2020, you can see the cost really started to take a big dive upwards. But during the initial time period of 2020, basically the entire January of 2020 all the way up to even late February, I was not really getting that big momentum. Sure, I was getting a good amount of return on ad spend, but my ad spend was around the same, and this was because I now had a big diversification between seasonal products as well as evergreen products. This is where really my Shopify store started to take a big turn towards profitability, towards getting that big scale. And if we look at the time period from January 1st, 2020 all the way to the end of basically May of 2020, we can see exactly what started to happen. So I achieved that big scale between February and March. Some people would say that this was an overnight success, but as you can see, it took a lot of time to really get to this stage right over here. But during this time period, I was running at an 8.56x ROAS. Just during this time period alone, I spent about $57,000 to make back $500,000. So just within a half a year time period alone. But in order to get to this stage, what I had to do was I had to focus on those small early wins. And this meant launching shopping campaigns following the maximize click strategy, or simply launching campaigns like branded search campaigns or search campaigns for my main winning products. All of these things I was just testing around during this time period, and to be honest with you, I would have got a higher return on ad spend if I had hired somebody who had already been experienced running Google ads, because I wasted a lot of money just trying different things out, which again, if you're in this phase right now, then hiring a Google ads agency, specifically my Google ads marketing agency, can really help you take your e-commerce brand to the next level. But those small early wins of just finding that right product and then finding more products which were very, very similar to that main winning product, or just finding that one winning search campaign and then launching more search campaigns with a similar bidding strategy or similar overall strategy, was what I was focusing on during this early time period, because it is what led me to get this large amount of sales in a very short period of time. Now I want to go over a few things I learned during these initial time periods, which led me to these bigger numbers, especially with Google Ads. Number one thing I learned: don't think you're smarter than Google Ads. Unfortunately, a lot of e-commerce store owners or people that run Google Ads think that they're the smartest in the world. They think that they can control their bids, they can get the bidding down to a science. They apply all of these random formulas, all of these specific numbers, which they think that if their campaigns just follow these numbers, they're gonna get the same exact result. And I apologize for breaking your bubble, but that's not really how Google Ads works. You can kind of bring Google Ads down to a science, but there's a lot of luck involved with Google Ads as well. And it's all just about letting Google Ads optimize by itself, letting the campaign and the algorithm understand all of the data that you're feeding it, because random things can happen at random periods of time. During this time period, I had not a slightest bit of clue that this big health crisis would come about, and that would cause me to do $500,000 in a half a year's time period. But it just randomly came about, and because of this, my campaigns started to optimize very, very differently. I had not even thought about optimizing in a certain way that these campaigns ended up optimizing it. So you want to kind of let your campaigns do their thing. You want to let them optimize as they're optimizing, because over time they will start to achieve a certain level of results that they would have never achieved had you been constantly meddling and constantly trying to change the results yourself. So again, that's one thing I realized: just trust Google Ads. It's on your side. Let it do its thing. Let the Google Ads algorithm become smarter, which brings me to number two, and that is, don't be afraid to try different things out. I can't tell you how many times I was losing money, I was losing time just trying out things that other so-called Shopify gurus on YouTube were preaching about, were finding results about, and I thought that if I wasn't finding results with their strategy, maybe my products were bad, or maybe I was the one that was doing something wrong, and I would just try to do the same thing over and over and over again, and it was really just leading me nowhere besides a dead end. So you want to kind of do the same thing over and over, but if after 3 tries, 4 tries, it's not leading you to the results that you want, to kind of move on to a different strategy. And what I found out was just letting Google Ads again do its thing, just letting Google Ads alone bring you to the working strategy is really the way to go when it comes to finding success with Google Ads. Which brings me to point number 3, and that is, don't just be in your Google Ads dashboard every single day trying to make all of these optimizations, trying to think that you're doing work just because you're in the Google Ads dashboard clicking a bunch of different buttons. I used to think the same, and I used to be within my Google Ads dashboard just clicking around for the sake of doing work, and this was really leading me nowhere besides a dead end. So I rather started just looking at my Google Ads dashboard on a daily basis to look at the data, meaning the CTR, the CPC, the quality score, etc. And I tried to figure out where in my funnel there's leaks so that I can improve my funnel on the back end. So majority of my work was actually getting done on my product pages, on the product side, etc. And this is where I was really starting to find a lot of success with, because I soon realized that just for the sake of doing work, clicking buttons was really nowhere as beneficial as just actually doing work within the back end, the product page, actually improving my conversion rates, etc. But those kind of wins was really what was leading me to the overall success I was getting with the Google Ads. And all of this kind of tied into the scaling strategy which I was able to use, and the reason why I was able to scale aggressively during this time period. I mean, I went from spending about $50 to $100 all the way up to $300 within a matter of a week to 2 weeks. So this is pretty insane for Google Ads. Might not really be insane for Facebook ads, but with Google, the reason why I was able to do that is because I had already found out what was working, and all I needed to do was just double down on what was working. So I did become aggressive in scaling my budgets, my bids, but also I understood what kind of scaling strategy was working, what kind of shopping campaign strategy was working, and I tried to do more of that, meaning launch more campaigns, launch more search campaigns, and launch more other kinds of campaigns which could lead me to these kinds of sales. Now, when it comes to scaling, I'm not gonna go too in depth into this video because I've already covered a lot of it in my past videos, but I will mention that scaling strategies do change all the time, and especially in 2022 and onwards, you want to only be aggressive with scaling if you already have something that's working, because working with all of these different e-commerce brands under my agency, Your Marketing, I came to realize that if you try to scale too aggressively, especially in 2022 and onwards, you're gonna end up hurting your ROAS, and when you hurt your profitability, it's not really what you want to do, because then you have to slow down your scaling, and it just leads to a lot of additional problems. So what you want to do is kind of take it a bit safe, even in 2022 and onwards in terms of scaling. Only scale about every 5 to 7 days with bidding, budget, etc. Which kind of brings me to the point of what I would have done differently if I were to go back and do all of these things again. And to be honest with you, I would not do a lot of things differently. Sure, I would tell myself not to run those campaigns on manual CPC, but running those campaigns on manual CPC in the beginning and losing money at a very low ROAS made me understand what was not working, because otherwise I would have simply continued trying manual CPC. But definitely in 2022 and onwards, I would not try manual CPC for a brand new ad account. There are time periods when you should be trying manual CPC, but with a brand new ad account, that's definitely not the time period for you to try manual CPC. Another thing I would tell myself is once I find something that's working, I would be a bit more aggressive with scaling, because originally, just because I had a bad experience trying to scale with manual CPC, I was kind of hesitant of putting in more money, even though I already found something that was bringing me a 5x, 10x, 15x ROAS. So what I would do differently is if I find something that is already working, I would definitely be a bit more aggressive in trying to scale it, because everything, including products, including campaigns, has a time period and a time frame. There's a certain time frame when it's gonna be absolutely amazing, and there's a certain time frame when it's just gonna start to die down. That's just how e-commerce works. Unfortunately, not everything is gonna continue running profitably for years and years and decades and decades. So what you want to do is when it is working, kind of take advantage of it and go double down on it. But that's something definitely I would have done differently, just been a bit more aggressive in scaling, which brings me to the third point, and that is kind of focus more on branding instead of just trying to make quick money. Now, if you're already running an e-commerce brand and you're already scaling, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're more of a drop shipper, then you are somebody that would need to worry about this, because in 2022 and onwards, if you want to build something long term, it's all about branding. It's all about kind of delivering something more than just a product, because there's a lot of e-commerce stores out there just selling products. You don't want to sell products, you want to sell brands. And that's really what I found the best way to get a high ROAS, meaning these kinds of return on ad spend, in 2022 and onwards, because I'm gonna be honest with you, it is much more competitive now than it used to be during that time period when I was selling. So in order to get the same kinds of returns, you would need to do some things a bit differently. And one of the best ways is to just focus on branding, is to just deliver a better experience overall for your brand. But that's pretty much it as to what I would have done differently. Again, if you are an e-commerce brand doing about $30,000 in sales or more, and you want help taking your e-commerce brand to the next level, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how I can personally help you take your e-commerce brand to the next level. It's fully free, no obligations. But if you found any type of value in this video, destroy the like button, destroy that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.